The moon was silent, covered in dark gray dust and broken stone. Cold winds moved across the empty surface like ghosts. There were no cities, no shelters, no lights, only a dead world where no traveler came. In the center of a deep crater, a young alien woman lay on the ground with bruises on her face and blood dry on her skin. Her name was Arya, the daughter of a noble house, once respected, once loved. But now she was nothing more than a broken body thrown away like trash. Her breathing was slow, each breath weak like it could stop at any moment. Her hands shook as she tried to push herself up, but she fell again, her strength gone. She stared at the sky and saw no stars, only clouds of ash moving above her like a dark blanket. She remembered the last moment before she was thrown here. A royal ship, bright golden armor, a crowd watching as guards forced her forward. Her fiancé, Lord Kale, stood above her on a metal platform with cold eyes. He spoke to her in front of the council, pretending to be sad, pretending to be honorable. But his words were poison, saying she had broken tradition, saying she refused the marriage promise that protected their alliance. Arya tried to explain, tried to speak the truth, but no one listened. They pushed her to the airlock, shut the door, and launched her escape pod toward the dead moon. The pod crashed hard, metal twisted, fire burning inside, but she survived, though barely. She remembered Kale's last words, echoing in her ears like a knife. No witness, no proof, let her die in silence. She closed her eyes, her body shaking, her mind slipping between pain and darkness. She wanted to scream, but even her voice was gone. She believed this was the end, her life ending on a forgotten rock with no final goodbye. But she still had one hope, a small device attached to her wrist, a distress beacon. She pressed it with the last energy she had, sending a weak signal into space. She knew no one from her people would answer, but still she pressed it again and again. The signal traveled far, through broken satellites, across empty space, until it reached a listening station on the edge of human territory. There, a human soldier named Commander Rylan sat alone in a dark control room. He watched the stars through a large window, monitoring radio lines and coded transmissions. When the distress signal arrived, the screen flashed red, showing strange alien letters. At first, he thought it was a random lost signal, something from old war debris. But when he translated the code, his eyes widened. He saw her name, Arya of House Varys. He knew that name, not from enemy files, but from a past mission where he rescued refugees from a border attack. Arya was one of them, kind, brave, someone who thanked humanity when others only feared them. Rylan remembered her smile, her gentle voice, and how she said humans deserved respect. Now she was dying, alone, and no one was coming. Rylan stood up fast, grabbing his uniform, his heart heavy with anger. He did not wait for permission. He opened a secure channel to his ship. "Prepare launch, we have a rescue mission," he said. The ship's crew hesitated, reminding him that this area belonged to powerful alien houses. But he only replied, "We don't leave allies to die." Within minutes, the engines roared to life, bright blue flames lighting up the hangar. The Terran warship, Vanguard, lifted from its docking bay, pushing into space at full speed. Back on the moon, Arya lay still, her heartbeat slowing, her skin pale. She looked up and whispered weak words, "Please, someone?" She did not know if anyone heard her, and her eyes closed again. Far above, the human ship exited faster than light travel near the moon. But something unexpected happened. Multiple alien ships uncloaked around the moon, dark shapes rising like predators waiting for prey. They were not there to save her, they were there to make sure she never lived again. Rylan watched from the bridge, fists tight, eyes sharp. "This was no accident," he said. "Someone wants her dead." The human warship powered up its weapons, engines burning brighter. Rylan gave one final order, his voice calm and cold. "Hold the line, we are bringing her home." The battle was about to begin. And the galaxy was about to learn what happens when you leave a human with no choice. The alien ships moved like silent shadows around the dead moon. Their hulls were black, covered in sharp patterns that marked them as elite hunters of the royal houses. They carried no flags, no beacons, no official identity, only the single purpose of ending any witness to the betrayal. From the bridge of the human warship Vanguard, Commander Rylan watched their strange movements on the tactical display. He noticed they were not scanning for survivors, they were scanning to confirm a kill. This was not a rescue party, this was a cleanup team sent to erase Arya's existence. Rylan stood tall, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the screen. "Their formation is too perfect," he said. "They already know she is here." His second officer, Lieutenant Hale, looked worried. "If this is House Varys, we may be violating their territory," Hale warned. Rylan shook his head slowly, voice cold. If they wanted us to respect their borders, they should not have tried to murder an unarmed woman. Meanwhile, on the moon, Arya lay inside the broken escape pod. Shadows moved across the crater walls as alien assassins landed nearby. They walked in silence, wearing cloaks that shimmered like liquid night. Each step left faint burns in the ground from their energy boots. Their leader, a tall figure with silver eyes, checked a small scanner. The device pulsed once, confirming her life signs. "She is still alive," he whispered. "End it quietly." Arya heard footsteps, slow and careful. She forced her weak body to crawl deeper behind the wreckage, but her wounds burned like fire. Her vision blurred, and she pressed her hand against her chest, trying to breathe. She whispered to herself, "Why do they fear me so much?" She did not know the truth yet, but she carried something powerful, something she did not mean to discover, something the house wanted buried forever. Back in orbit, the alien ships began to power weapons, still silent but preparing to strike. The Vanguard sensors picked up the charge, alarms sounding across the bridge. Lieutenant Hale turned to Rylan, panic rising. "They are targeting the surface. They want to vaporize the crash site." Rylan's face darkened like storm clouds. If they fired, Arya would die before he even reached her. There was no time to wait, no time to negotiate. "All weapons online," he ordered. "Lock targets and open a warning channel." The communication broadcast echoed through space like thunder. "Unmarked ships, you are engaging a protected humanitarian zone. Stand down or face Terran military action." The aliens did not respond. They simply charged their cannons faster, preparing a full strike. Their silence was the answer. Rylan stepped closer to the command chair, voice low and sharp. "Hale, fire a disabling shot, no hesitation." Vanguard unleashed a blast of blue energy that struck the closest assassin ship. It spun violently, shields breaking, sparks ripping across its wings as it fell toward the moon's gravity. The other alien pilots reacted instantly, their ships turning like wolves circling prey. They aimed their weapons at the human vessel. Now battle was unavoidable. On the surface, Arya heard distant explosions shaking the ground. She looked at the sky through cracked glass and saw bright flashes in space. "Someone is fighting for me," she whispered, tears falling despite her pain. Suddenly, one alien assassin stepped into her hiding place, blade glowing red in his hand. He looked at her with cold eyes. "You were not meant to survive," he said quietly. Arya closed her eyes, ready for the end. But before the strike landed, a beam of blue energy shot from the sky, hitting the assassin's armor and throwing him back. Rylan had activated precision support fire, using orbital targeting to protect her position. Arya stared at the sky in shock, hope returning like fire in her chest. "Humans, they came," she whispered. In orbit, the alien ships began forming a blockade, trying to trap the Vanguard. Their commander finally spoke over comms, voice calm but cold. "This is royal jurisdiction. Human interference will be recorded as hostile action." Rylan answered without blinking. "You left a woman to die. We do not honor murderers." A tense silence lasted only seconds, then space lit up with fire. Missiles launched, lasers burned through the darkness, and shockwaves rolled like thunder. The Vanguard pushed forward, forcing a path through enemy fire, engines roaring like an angry beast. Nothing would stop Rylan from reaching the surface. He would not fail her again. Below, Arya crawled out from the wreckage, using her last strength to reach open ground. The sky flashed blue as a dropship descended, engines breaking through dust storms. She lifted her hand, trying to wave, but she collapsed again, body giving up. As she hit the ground, a shadow fell over her. A door opened, boots touched the surface, and a hand reached toward her, firm and gentle. "Arya," a voice said, "I'm here." Her eyes opened for a moment, seeing a familiar face through the dust. Rylan, dressed in combat armor, visor glowing, standing like a guardian from legend. She tried to speak but only managed one word. "You came?" Rylan held her close, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I promised I would not let you die alone." But just as he lifted her, alarms screamed on his helmet display. More enemy ships were dropping from orbit, covering the sky like a black storm. This rescue had become a war. And everyone wanted her dead before she could speak the truth. Rylan tightened his grip on his weapon, eyes turning hard. "No one touches her again," he whispered. And the battle for Arya's survival truly began. Dust storms rose around the crater as the dropship engines faded. Rylan held Arya close while scanning the area with sharp eyes, the battlefield silent for a moment like the world was holding its breath. Her skin was cold, her pulse weak, and every breath sounded like it might be her last. He opened his medical kit and injected a stabilizer into her arm, the liquid glowing blue as it entered her veins. Her eyes flickered, pain and fear still inside them, but she stayed conscious. "You are safe now," Rylan whispered, but even he knew those words were only half true. The scanner on his wrist beeped, showing multiple life signals moving toward their location underground. Not beasts, not random survivors, but organized units. Elite assassins were closing in from tunnels beneath the surface, using ancient ruins to move unseen. Rylan grabbed his rifle, setting Arya gently against a broken piece of metal for cover. He loaded a new energy cell, the gun humming with power. He activated his helmet visor and whispered, "Vanguard, start deep scan of subterranean structure. I need a map." The ship responded with a hologram showing hidden corridors beneath them, old stone pathways and collapsed chambers. These ruins were older than both human and alien empires, built by something forgotten. Arya looked around weakly, her voice barely a whisper. "They brought me here for a reason. There is something under this moon, something they want hidden." Before Rylan could ask more, the ground shook, small stones rolling across the crater floor. From below, a metal hatch exploded upward and masked assassins emerged like shadows rising from the grave. Their armor was dark silver, marked with the crest of House Varys, their blades crackling with red plasma. They spoke in a cold unified voice through their helmets. "The witness must not leave this world." Rylan stepped forward, placing himself between Arya and the assassins, rifle aimed steady. "You want her," he said. "You will have to walk over me first." The first assassin rushed at him, fast as lightning, blade cutting through the air. Rylan dodged and fired point blank, energy blast sending the attacker flying backward into the rocks, armor sparking. But more assassins came, surrounding them from all sides. Rylan tapped his wrist and deployed a holographic shield dome, a blue barrier forming around him and Arya. The assassins attacked the shield, their weapons slashing like burning claws, sparks flying with each hit. One of them whispered through the calm voice full of hate. "She carries forbidden data, she saw what she should not see." Arya pushed herself upright, grabbing Rylan's arm, her voice shaking. "I was never meant to see the royal archives, they killed everyone who knew. I escaped by accident." Rylan's eyes narrowed as he pieced together the truth. "They didn't try to silence you because of marriage," he said. "They tried to silence you because you know something." Arya nodded slowly, tears forming in her eyes. "The marriage was a trap. Once bonded they would control my mind, control my voice. I refused, so they chose death for me." The shield flickered, growing weaker under heavy strikes. Rylan knew they could not hold position much longer. They needed to escape underground or be overwhelmed on the surface. He lifted Arya in his arms and sprinted toward the nearest crater wall as the shield collapsed behind him. Blaster fire lit the sky, red beams cutting through dust as assassins chased them. Rylan spotted an old stone entrance covered in vines and broken metal, a hidden doorway leading into ancient passages. He kicked it open, sparks flying as rusty hinges snapped. The darkness inside felt alive, thick air filled with echoes and unknown whispers. Arya trembled, her voice soft. "These ruins are not from my people. They belong to something older." Rylan entered the dark halls, switching his visor to night vision. Inside, walls were carved with strange symbols, glowing faint blue, like languages carved before history began. Metal plates on the ground hummed beneath their feet, reacting to their presence. Behind them, footsteps approached fast, assassins entering the tunnel with silent precision. Their blades ignited, lighting the corridor with red reflections. Rylan placed Arya behind an old pillar and aimed his rifle down the hallway. Energy blasts echoed across the stone walls, each shot lighting the darkness like lightning storms. One assassin jumped from the ceiling, dropping directly toward Arya. Rylan spun and fired mid-air, the blast tearing through the attacker's armor and sending him crashing to the ground. Arya clutched Rylan's arm, fear mixing with guilt. "I never wanted anyone to die for me." Rylan looked back at her with a hard expression. "Sometimes the truth is worth fighting for." More assassins came, forcing them deeper into the ruins. The tunnels branched into multiple paths, old machines half buried in stone, unknown devices pulsing faint energy. It was not just a moon, it was a forgotten vault. Arya touched a glowing wall plate, and a hidden door slid open with ancient machinery waking from sleep. Rylan stared in shock. "You know how to activate this?" She shook her head slowly. "I don't," it responded to my blood. The door opened into a massive underground chamber, a city of ruins under the surface. Monoliths stood tall, lights awakening like old eyes opening after centuries of darkness. Symbols lit up across the floor, forming a path beneath their feet. Arya stepped forward, feeling a strange pull like the ruins were calling her. Rylan followed, keeping his weapon ready, watching the shadows. The assassins reached the entrance but stopped suddenly, fear in their posture. Their leader whispered, voice shaking for the first time. "We must not enter, this place is forbidden even to us." Rylan turned back, eyes sharp. "Looks like you chose the wrong place to hunt." He stepped fully into the ancient city, doors closing behind them like a seal. Now they were trapped underground, with mysteries older than any empire. But for the first time, Arya felt something other than fear. She felt destiny. This moon was not her grave. It might be the birthplace of a truth powerful enough to destroy her enemies, and humanity was now part of it. The ancient doors sealed behind them with a loud metallic echo. Dust fell from the ceiling and the lights in the ruins grew brighter, glowing like long sleeping stars waking for the first time in ages. Rylan lowered Arya to a stone platform, checking her pulse again, relieved to see it stronger after the stabilizer. Her breathing steadied, but her eyes remained filled with fear and confusion. "I do not understand," she whispered. "Why would this place react to me?" Rylan scanned the luminous symbols across the floor, each one pulsing like a heartbeat. "This is not random," he said. "Someone wanted you dead because you could activate this." Arya shook her head slowly, tears forming. "All my life they told me I was chosen for marriage because of bloodline honor, not because of this." Before she could say more, distant footsteps echoed through the tunnel outside. Even though the assassins feared the ruins, they had not completely retreated. They waited, watching, preparing to strike once Arya tried to leave. The prison had become a fortress, but only for a short time. Rylan took a deep breath and opened his comm link. "Vanguard, status report." Static filled the channel at first, then a voice broke through. "Commander, enemy forces have doubled, orbital reinforcements from multiple houses are arriving. They demand we surrender the girl." Rylan clenched his teeth, anger rising like fire in his chest. He looked at Arya and then back toward the distant exit. "They want her dead," he said. "No negotiation." A new voice entered the comm, older and harsh. It was Lord Kale himself, the man who betrayed Arya. "Human vessel, you are trespassing in royal space. Release the traitor and leave or face destruction." Arya froze, her eyes wide with hate and pain. She recognized his voice instantly. Rylan stepped forward, speaking through gritted teeth. "She is not a traitor, she is your victim." Kale laughed, a cold sharp sound that felt like poison. "She was born to serve, she rejected her purpose, now fate corrects itself." Arya forced herself to stand, leaning on a stone pillar, her voice shaking but strong. "My fate is mine, not yours." Her words echoed across the chamber, the lights pulsing brighter in response. Kale spoke again, his tone shifting to something darker. "She carries classified information stolen from the archive. That knowledge can destroy nations. We cannot allow her to live." Rylan understood now. This was not about honor or marriage. This was about power, control, and fear. He closed the comm channel without another word. Then he placed a hand on Arya's shoulder, his voice steady and deadly calm. "They wanted to bury you here, we will make this your rebirth." Arya looked up at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Rylan turned to the ruins, scanning the symbols again. "This place is a machine, a memory, maybe a weapon." His eyes narrowed. "And you are the key." Before they could continue, explosions shook the ceiling as enemy forces began drilling through the outer shell of the moon. Rylan grabbed Arya and pulled her deeper into the ruins as ancient machinery activated under their feet. Holographic figures appeared, tall beings with elongated forms and glowing eyes, speaking in an ancient language. Arya stepped closer, reaching out with trembling hands. The holograms shifted into a universal translation, their voices calm and echoing. "Blood of the broken empire, you are the last witness." Arya stepped back in shock. "These ruins knew about my house long before we existed." Another message played, this time darker. "The empire rewrote history, erased worlds, silenced voices. You carry their true origin." Rylan's eyes widened. "So that is why they fear you. You are proof their power is stolen." Suddenly, drilling explosions broke through the entrance and assassin troops stormed inside again, this time with heavy weapons. Red lasers cut through ancient pillars, shattering stone and metal alike. Rylan shoved Arya behind a large monolith and opened fire, each shot clean and precise. The air filled with smoke, sparks, and broken shards raining like metal rain. Arya watched him fight, every movement fierce and controlled. He was not just rescuing her, he was fighting for justice itself. The assassins fired energy nets designed to capture without killing. Rylan dodged them and threw a pulse grenade, the blast knocking enemies off their feet, armor cracking, helmets shattering. He grabbed Arya and ran deeper, past a massive circular door carved with symbols that glowed bright gold. Arya touched it, and the door opened instantly like a living thing responding to her presence. Inside was a massive chamber with a raised platform, ancient consoles, and a glowing central pillar filled with swirling data. Arya approached it slowly, her heart racing. This is the archive they feared. It contained information older than the royal houses, history no empire wanted known, truth that could destroy dynasties. Above them, the roof trembled as ships fired into the moon's surface. Outside, the vanguard returned with full force, human warships tearing through the alien blockade with brutal power. Missiles streaked across space, explosions burning like small suns. Terran forces finally entered the war. Arya placed her hand on the glowing archive and it began to transfer data directly to her memory implant. Streams of light wrapped around her like threads of energy, her mind filling with forbidden knowledge. Rylan stood guard, fire in his eyes. "Take everything," he said. "We will show the galaxy what they tried to hide." Arya's voice grew stronger as power surged through her. They destroyed worlds, erased species, all to build their empire. The truth was bigger than her life, bigger than any throne. This was the weapon. Knowledge. But the chamber doors exploded, and the final assassin squad stormed in with Kale himself at the front, armor shining like a black crown, blade drawn, eyes full of rage. Arya stepped forward, no longer weak, no longer afraid. "You left me to die," she said, voice filled with fire. "Now I rise." Rylan lifted his rifle, standing at her side like a shield. Kale pointed his blade at them both. "Then you will die together." The final battle was about to begin, and the galaxy would not forget what happened next. The ancient chamber shook as the last door fell. Dust and broken metal fell from the ceiling like ashes. Kale stepped forward with slow, proud steps, his dark armor glowing with red lines. Assassins spread out around him like shadows ready to strike, blades humming with deadly light. They moved with confidence, believing this was the end, believing Arya had nowhere left to run. Rylan stood between Arya and the assassins, both hands steady on his rifle. His armor was scratched, his energy cells half empty, but his resolve was unbroken. He looked like a lone guardian holding back a storm. The room glowed blue from the ancient archive behind them, its light dancing across the walls like silent witnesses to history. Kale raised his blade and pointed it at Arya. "You should have accepted your role," he said, his voice smooth like poison. "You were meant to be my tool, nothing more." Arya stepped forward slowly, no longer shaking, no longer afraid. Her eyes glowed with the knowledge from the ancient archive, memories that did not belong only to her bloodline but to worlds erased. She spoke in a calm voice, firm like stone. "You killed people to build your empire. You erased truth to protect your throne. And you tried to destroy me because I saw what you fear." Kale smiled, sharp and cruel. "No one will believe you," he whispered. "You are alone." Arya shook her head. "I was alone," she said softly. "But not anymore." She turned to Rylan, and he nodded without saying a word. They had become more than allies, they were a testimony, a living proof of defiance. Rylan activated his comm link, connecting directly to the Terran fleet in orbit. "This is Commander Rylan," he said calmly. "Broadcast the archive to every open frequency." On the surface and in space, human warships lit up with transmission beams. The ancient data began to spread across the galaxy like a wave of light. Every ship, every station, every world tuned to public channels saw the truth. Images of destroyed civilizations, royal bloodlines forged in war crimes, histories rewritten, voices erased. Across star systems, governments reacted in shock. Some nations froze in fear, others demanded answers, rebellions sparked instantly. Whispers turned to shouts as the truth broke chains older than empires. Kale screamed in rage, his comm mask cracking at last. "You foolish girl," he shouted, "you have doomed us all." Arya stepped closer, her voice steady. "No," she replied. "I have freed them." Kale roared and charged forward, his blade aimed at her heart. Rylan moved with lightning speed, intercepting the strike, metal and energy clashing, sparks flying everywhere. The force of Kale's attack pushed Rylan back, boots scraping ancient stone, but he did not fall. He pushed forward, blocking strike after strike, each clash louder than thunder. Arya backed away, watching the duel with wide eyes, guilt and gratitude mixing inside her. Rylan fought like a storm, each movement sharp and controlled, trained by war and hardened by experience. Kale fought like a king, powerful and ruthless, his strikes fueled by anger and wounded pride. Their blades clashed again and again, filling the chamber with echoes of war. Finally Kale landed a heavy strike across Rylan's armor, sparks exploding, knocking him to one knee. Kale raised his blade for the final kill, eyes burning with victory. But Arya stepped between them, her body weak but her spirit stronger than ever. She placed her hand on the glowing archive pillar, and energy surged through her veins again. Blue light burst out of the pillar and formed a shield between Kale and Rylan. Kale's blade struck the shield and shattered like glass, pieces flying across the room. Kale stared at her in disbelief. "You are nothing without me," he whispered, voice shaking. Arya stared back, voice filled with quiet fire. "I was nothing because I believed you. Now I believe myself." Human dropships landed outside the ruins, soldiers marching in with heavy armor, rifles raised. Terran Marines surrounded the assassins and ordered them to stand down. Some surrendered, others fled, but the war was already lost. Kale tried to escape through a side tunnel, but Rylan caught him and slammed him against the wall. Kale struggled, but the human soldier held him firmly. "You left her to die," Rylan said, voice low and thunderous. "Now you will face what you tried to escape." He locked energy cuffs around Kale's wrists, and Terran soldiers dragged him away as he screamed threats and broken pride. Arya watched silently, feeling the gravity of every moment. Rylan walked back to her, armor cracked, face tired but eyes warm. He held out his hand. "It's over," he said softly. Arya took his hand, leaning against him for support. "No," she whispered, looking at the glowing archive. "This is only the beginning." Outside, the moon cracked open as Terran ships lifted them into orbit. Stars shined against the black sky like witnesses to a new era. Worlds across the galaxy began rising against the old empire. Protests turned into uprisings, alliances shifted, power structures shattered. A single lost woman, once thrown away like nothing, had become the spark of revolution. Rylan looked out from the ship's window, watching fleets move into formation. "What will you do now?" he asked. Arya placed her hand on the glass, looking at the stars ahead. "Go where no one can silence me again," she said. "Use the truth to free others." Rylan nodded and stood beside her. "Wherever you go, humanity stands with you." She turned to him with a soft smile, filled with both pain and hope. "Thank you for coming back," she whispered. Rylan smiled back, eyes steady. "I never leave those who believe in us." Their journey was far from over, but the galaxy would remember one thing forever. She was left for dead. Humanity gave her a future, and together they changed the stars.